Hey, welcome back to Mr. News Art Class. It's wonderful to see those smiling faces of yours. Today, we're moving on from the eyes down to the nose. If you missed the video where we learned how to draw eyes, I'll leave a link in the description below. But if you're ready, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn on my light box here so we can see those construction lines underneath, where we've got these parentheses for the nose. The first step in drawing the nose is to actually just trace those construction lines, those little parentheses on both sides. This is going to give us the edges of the nostrils, the outside edges of the skin that wraps around the nostrils. Next, as if we were doing a math equation with something like x plus y inside of those parentheses, you don't need to write x and y, of course, but those letters there are, that's, if you were imagining that you were doing a math equation here with some numbers in there, that's the placement of where the nostrils are going to go. So I'll erase those. And in their place, I'm going to draw ovals. So it's more like oval plus oval, or something. Anyway, these nostrils are not like we're looking up into there and seeing all the bogies. No, we're just seeing the shadow. So let's darken that in on both sides. And then let's move on to the tip of the nose. Between the nostrils, the tip of the nose usually curves down just a bit, just a little bit between the two nostrils. So it's like a wide U shape here. And then this skin that wraps around the nostrils curves up and under the nostrils on both sides. And this next part is where most people draw the nose wrong. And I'm using air quotes here to say wrong because there's really no wrong way. If you're trying to make it look realistic, you don't want to draw lines that go all the way up the face. The only time you would see a line like that all the way up the face is if you've wiped some sunscreen lotion in a line down your nose and didn't spread it in, right? Because we see outlines around the eyes and this line where the skin of the eyelid folds. We see that because there's a crease, there's a fold. Like if you look right here where my skin folds, that there's a line. But if it's not folded, the skin, when it's just smooth, the skin, there's no lines. So on a nose, the skin isn't folded. Here, at the bottom of the nose, there is going to be a line because the nostrils, the skin does fold over itself. But as it goes up the nose, up the bridge of the nose towards the eyes, that doesn't happen. So we don't want a line going all the way up. Instead, shading is going to be a big deal. So remember we were talking with our eyes about having a consistent light source shining in from the top right. We want to keep that in mind and think if this side of the nose, the right side, the top right, is getting lit by this bright light, then the left side is going to be in shadow. So for the left side of the nose, what I'm doing is holding my pencil almost sideways here. I don't want to point it down. I want to hold it sideways, do some shading. And instead of drawing a line for where the bridge of the nose is, I'm going to make the shadow of the nose on the face. And as I'm doing that, I also want to move up and think about the eye sockets and how there's going to be a little bit of a shadow underneath the eyebrow. This shadow continues up from the side of the nose, up under the eyebrow, between the eyebrow and the eye, into that eye socket. This gives a little bit of three-dimensionality, a little bit of depth into that face. We can also consider on that same thought that this eyebrow would have a little bit of a shadow underneath it as well, and that shadow would give us a little bit of information about the top of the bridge of the nose, but then it would be brighter as it comes down. So with just that little bit of shading, we've given a lot of definition to the bridge of the nose. Let's come back to the tip of the nose and think about the roundness of the tip of the nose. So I could draw a whole circle here. That looks a little goofy though, because the tip of the nose, again, the skin isn't like folding over itself, so we don't want to see a line there. We want to use shading to tell us where that should be light and where it should be dark. So if the light, again, is shining in from the top right, then we can just leave the top right portion completely alone, and we can do a little bit of shading on the bottom left part. Of the tip of the nose. We can also do the same on each nostril. Do a little bit of shading on the bottom left of the nostril, underneath, that skin that goes underneath as it wraps around. And then again, on this side, just a little bit of shading underneath. We want to make sure that nostril is darker, though, than this shading underneath. And that's really simple. Now, the tip of the nose here looks very, very small and pointy because I made that such a small circle. If a nose has a wider, tip of the nose, then you just make that shaded circle or arc of a circle. It's not the whole circle, right? You just make it a little bit wider. And there you have it. That's pretty much all there is to it for making the nose. Maybe there should also be a little bit of shading underneath the nose at the bottom here. Maybe we should darken in the lines for some of these creases and folds. Maybe we should darken in those nostrils a little bit more. They're probably going to be super dark. But this is pretty much all it takes to draw a nose.